The most seductive person you've ever met probably never tried to seduce you. They didn't say the perfect line, they didn't manufacture the right moment, they didn't engineer some grand romantic gesture, and yet, you went home that night thinking about them. You checked your phone, you replayed the conversation. You built entire versions of them inside your head that were more vivid than reality. By the end of this, you'll recognize exactly when this system is being run on you, and you will never be able to unsee it. That wasn't attraction, that was psychological occupation, and it wasn't happening to you. It was being done to you, deliberately, precisely. And they understood exactly what they were doing while you thought it was just chemistry. Here's the truth that Robert Greene spent decades documenting across the most dangerous minds in human history: kings, seducers, strategists, con artists. And it is the one thing nobody in this space will say directly. The game of psychology is already being played. Right now, in your relationships, your workplace, your friendships, on your screen. The only question is whether you are a player or a piece. And you cannot answer that question honestly until you understand how the system actually works. So let's go inside it. Most people think manipulation is about control, forcing someone toward a conclusion, pressuring them into a decision. That is amateur psychology. That is the visible hand. And the visible hand always triggers resistance. The real move is something far quieter. Master manipulators don't control your behavior. They architect your reality. They construct the emotional environment around you so gradually, so organically, that every decision you make inside that environment feels completely free, completely yours. You weren't pushed. You weren't pressured. You simply chose. And that is precisely what makes it so difficult to defend against. Your brain is not a logic machine. It never was. It is a meaning machine. One that processes emotion first, narrative second, and logic dead last. Cognitive scientists call this narrative transportation. The brain's tendency to accept information as true when it arrives wrapped inside a story it's already emotionally invested in. It's why you trust a character in a movie more than a stranger on the street. Same information, different emotional wrapper. Master manipulators don't present facts. They build frames. And by the time you realize you're inside one, it already feels like the truth. But before you can build someone's reality, you first have to get past the thing protecting it. Every person you've ever met is living inside a fortress. Not a physical one, a psychological one, built from years of broken trust, social exhaustion, and the low-grade paranoia that modern life runs on. People are not open by default. They are defended by default. And here is the mistake that costs most people the game before it even begins. They lead with intensity. They come in with visible charm, obvious effort, unmistakable desire. And the other person's nervous system reads all of that as a threat signal. The walls go up. The resistance activates. Green's insight is counterintuitive and it is brutal. You don't lower someone's walls by being impressive. You lower them by being safe, by being the one person in the room with no visible agenda, no performance, no obvious need. Psychologists call this the liking principle. We drop our defenses around people who seem to want nothing from us. So the master's first move is never seduction. It is disarmament. They make you feel seen, accepted, understood, completely without condition. And by the time they finally ask for something, you're already inside the frame. The walls are already down. And what they're asking for doesn't feel like influence. It feels like your own idea. And once you're there, once the walls are down and the frame is built, the next move is the one that most people are completely unprepared for. Withdrawal. Not rejection, not coldness, not cruelty. Just a slight, surgical reduction in presence. A reply that takes a few hours longer than usual. A warmth that becomes fractionally more neutral. A meeting that ends without the usual warmth at the door. Just enough absence to create a gap where certainty used to live. This is where the Zeigarnik Effect takes over with brutal precision. The brain cannot tolerate unresolved emotional loops. When something that felt stable suddenly becomes uncertain, attention floods toward it completely. You start replaying, adjusting, working to re-earn something you once had for free. You are now the one pursuing. You are now the one invested. You are now the one with something to lose. The master didn't chase you. They created a vacuum, and your own psychology pulled you straight into it. Your absence doesn't create distance. In the hands of someone who understands this, it creates obsession. Because the brain doesn't fixate on what it never cared about. It only fixates on what it once had and can no longer fully access. Now here is the part that most content about Robert Greene completely misses. And it is the most important psychological mechanic in this entire system. Here's the mechanic that no one talks about, because it's the one that exposes exactly how you've already been had. The master never tries to make you want them. They make you want to be the version of yourself that exists when you're around them. Behavioral scientists call this idealized self-projection. When someone encounters a person who understands them not just at the surface level, not just their words, but what's living underneath the words, something neurological shifts. The brain begins to associate that person with a version of itself it has always wanted to access, more understood, more seen, more worthy of real attention. And here is the dark mechanic beneath it. You won't fall in love with the master. You'll fall in love with who you become in their presence. They are not the object of your desire. They are the mirror that shows you your most desirable self. And you will do almost anything to keep that mirror in your life. Because losing them doesn't just feel like losing a person. It feels like losing the best version of yourself. Greene documents this across centuries. Napoleon, Cleopatra, the most successful political architects of the modern era. They didn't win by being the most impressive person in every room. They won by making everyone else feel like the most important person in the room. That distinction is everything. But all of it, the framing, the disarmament, the vacuum, the mirror, it only works if you've mastered the one thing Greene says almost nobody is willing to do in a world built for instant everything. Patience. The master manipulator is not the most clever person in the room. They are the most patient. And in a world optimized for instant replies, instant validation, instant results, patience has become the rarest and most dangerous psychological weapon in existence. Greene observed this across every great strategic mind he studied. They never moved the moment the opportunity appeared. They waited. They watched. They let the situation develop until the other person's psychology had fully committed. And then at the precise moment of maximum emotional investment, they acted. This is rooted in effort justification theory. The longer someone has invested in a situation, emotionally, socially, mentally, the more their brain will resist any interpretation that contradicts that investment. Admitting it would mean admitting the investment was wrong, and the ego doesn't do that without a fight. The master waits until you're so far in that walking away feels like loss. And then they move. Most people lose the game in the first 5 minutes by wanting too visibly, moving too fast, showing too much. The master is still watching when everyone else has already played their hand. And the final move, the one that ties everything together, is the one that leaves no trace at all. When you can feel someone trying to persuade you, the brain switches into defense mode instantly. Every argument, no matter how valid, gets processed as a threat. Psychologists call this psychological reactance, the mind's automatic rebellion against any perceived attempt to control it. You can't fight your way through it. You can't charm your way through it. But when the influence arrives in the shape of your own thoughts, when the conclusion feels like something you arrived at yourself, through your own reasoning, your own emotions, your own free will, there is nothing to resist. Because you're not fighting an external force. You're following yourself. That is the invisible hand. The master doesn't push you toward the conclusion. They architect the environment, the framing, the emotional temperature, the timing, the information you see and the information you don't, so that the conclusion you choose is the one they already decided on. You walked into the room, you had the conversation, you made the decision, and somewhere across from you, someone who understood your psychology better than you do, smiled quietly and said nothing, because they didn't need to say anything. So here's where this actually lands. The people who have moved through your life and left the deepest marks, the ones you couldn't forget, couldn't fully explain, couldn't quite get over, they weren't accidents. They weren't just your type. They were operating on psychological systems that most people never name and almost nobody teaches. The open loops that kept you thinking at 2 a.m., the strategic withdrawal that kept you searching, the mirror that made you chase a better version of yourself, the invisible architecture that made every outcome feel like your own free choice. This is the game Green documented, not a collection of tactics, a system. A cold, elegant, invisible system that has been running underneath human interaction for centuries. And the question he's really asking, across every book, every framework, every historical case study, is the same question I'll leave you with now. How many times has this system already been run on you? And how many times did you call it love? Drop a comment with just a number. How many times? That's it. You'll be surprised how many people are thinking the exact same things.